friends. Today we're going to talk about some teaching and learning. This is going to be a pretty quick one. Just kind of going over some things that you might just want to think of when it comes to how you teach your patients different things. So let's get into it. So essentially today we're just covering a couple topics. So it's the hierarchy of needs, classical conditioning, and operant conditioning. So this is what they mean by like learning types of things. So like how do you get patients to reproduce an activity? How are you going to get people to get better at an activity? So this kind of ties into a little bit of motor learning, but this is just a random topic that kind of showed up in non-system. So we're just going to go over it to cover our bases. Maybe you'll see something, maybe you won't. I feel like this is a very low priority thing, but let's just go through it real quick. So let's talk about the hierarchy of needs. So this kind of comes into, I would say this is more important in like real life clinical practice versus the boards, but basically we have our predetermined physical and psychological needs, basic needs first, and then complex needs second. Our self-actualization needs are the need to realize one's full potential as a human being. So this is like the overall goal for like existence kind of thing. And so we got to take this into consideration when we're trying to help patients get back to what they want to do, because essentially everybody's trying to get to this self-actualization where they're like, I'm able to maximize my existence here. That's pretty much what that means. Esteem needs are needs to feel good about oneself, recognition by self or others. So basically telling patients like, hey, you're doing a good job, like you're doing great, like I think this is going well. Giving them, positive feedback to help improve how they're feeling. Now, again, I feel like this is more relevant in clinical practice, and I feel like when you're hearing me say all this, you're like, duh, but like this is also like just in the book stuff. Affirmative needs, so they need a secure and safe environment for learning and understanding things. And then the physiological needs are the things we think of when we're like, what are our basic needs? Food, water, shelter, all of those sort of things. That's our basic needs. So again, keeping these into consideration when you're treating a patient, understanding that if the patient is not having a secure environment, maybe they're not going to get to their goals as fast. Like this is kind of talking about that psychosocial, like other different determinants of health and social determinants of health of like what's going to like help a patient get better or not. Basically, obviously, if a patient is not in a safe environment, they might not get better as faster, and it's going to affect their healing and stuff like that. Again, I really feel like this is going to be more geared towards like real life clinical practice. So then let's talk about the different types of conditioning. So this is getting somebody to do an activity. So this is the dog and the bell with Pavlov. So this is Pavlov. If you've heard of this and taken any sort of psychology class, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. You pair a neutral stimulus with a conditioned response. So first pair the conditioned response with the conditioned stimulus with a conditioned response. So this is literally the dog salivating. So if I tell you, I want you to picture the most amazing, like, pizza you've ever seen in your life. Or like, on Instagram where you see like those like cheese pools, or like just something that's just like so yummy looking that you're like, oh my God, now I'm like hungry about it. So it's pairing it, and then you start like almost like salivating over it. That's literally what they would do with this dog. So they would put food in front of it, and then they would see that the dog would salivate. So makes sense. We see the cheese pool on Instagram, we salivate, the dog sees the food, they salivate, okay? And then you add a neutral stimulus, which essentially for this neutral stimulus, they were using a bell. So basically they'd give the dog food and then ring a bell. And so then eventually they've essentially conditioned the dog to salivate anytime they hear a bell. Because when they hear a bell, they're thinking, oh, there's food nearby. And then they have conditioned them to do that. How do we see this in real life? Um, Essentially, you walk up to a patient who's had a knee replacement and you're like, and they look at you and they know they're about to be stretched and they start getting anxious. That's literally what we see happening with this. So this is kind of like this is also going to be used more in pediatric PT. So let's say that the kid knows, oh, if I carry the egg on the spoon as we're walking, for like balance and fine motor skills kind of thing, I know that afterwards, I'm going to get to pick the next the next activity. And then that means that I get to do something I want to do. So that's kind of conditioning kids to kind of do things. So to get them to do things, That's pretty much what's going on. So I guess you give the kid that exercise, which like normally like wouldn't have a response, but now they're getting excited because they know the next exercise that is something that they get to pick next. Um, that's kind of how that kind of works to get the kid more involved with therapy. So normally if I tell you, hey, we're gonna carry an egg on a spoon, you're like, okay. Like normally you wouldn't think of anything. But if I tell you, oh, you get to pick the next activity, you get excited. And then now I've paired, hey, if we do this egg carrying activity, you get to pick the next one. So now when you do the egg carrying activity, you get excited because you know what's going to happen next. You get to pick the next fun exercise. That's how that works. So again, a lot of these are used in pediatric PT. Normally, you would just think of this as bribing. That's pretty much what happens with this. Operant conditioning is the other one. So this is like the positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. So again, used a lot in pediatric PT, or even geriatrics. Honestly, both ends of the spectrum. Honestly, with me, I tell my patients they can bribe me with food. I also tell them whenever there's a fly in the clinic, if they kill the fly, then they get to skip their least favorite activity, except for stretching. That's needed, but that's how I do it. You can bribe the patients can be bribed. So anyways, operant conditioning is the Skinner mentality. So it's BF Skinner. So this is going to be like, we're going to talk about the different types of reinforcement and punishment. So when it says positive, that means you are giving something. It's not that it's good or bad. It's just that you're giving something. The person, the patient is now receiving something from you. So that could be good. That could be a high five. That could also be, I guess in a really crazy scenario, you give them like suicides to run or something like that, or whatever they want to call them nowadays, where you run back and forth, the shuttle runs. That's my least favorite thing in the world. Something like that. You're giving them something. Could be good, could be bad, but you're giving them something. So just think positive means giving. Now, negative means taking away, which could be good. Again, if they kill the fly in the clinic, I hate when there's a fly in the clinic. It annoys the crap out of me. So if they kill the fly, they get to lose one of their least favorite exercises. So I take it away. Have I had a patient actually kill the fly? No, I haven't, but it's good motivation for them. I think it's functional to kill flies. You need to kill flies. It's functional. Anyways, that's where I'm at with things. So negative reinforcement, or sorry, not negative reinforcement, negative anything. When either one of these, reinforcement or punishment, if they say negative, you are taking something away. Okay, so that's how I want you to think of this. Now, it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. You could be taking away their cell phone, and now they're sad. Anything. So let's kind of combine these together. If it's positive reinforcement, positive means we're giving them something. Reinforcement means we want the action to continue. Okay, so reinforcement, we do that to keep the action going. Punishment, we do to stop the action. Okay, so knowing these two things, if positive means we give, negative means we take away, reinforcement means we want them to keep doing it, and then punishment means we want them to stop doing it. Let's go through these. Positive reinforcement. Positive means we're giving them something. Reinforcement means to make the activity keep going. So we are going to give them something to get them to perform the action. Okay. So I tell them, I'm going to, if you let me stretch you, I will give you ice afterwards. Okay. Which then allows them to be like, yeah, stretch me. So I want them to stretch. So they do the stretch. I give them the ice, and now they're happy because they know that that's paired with that. That's what positive reinforcement is. Okay. Give them something to get them to keep doing it. Maybe I tell them they do a squat and it's good. I'm like, wow, that was great. High five. I gave them a high five because I want them to keep doing the action. Make sense? Okay. Negative reinforcement means I take something away for performing an action to get them to keep doing it. Okay. So again, this is the fly. Take away the exercise so they kill the fly. I know this is bad. I don't even know. I know this is bad, but anyways, that's what I think. I can't stand flies in the clinic. It's really a big pet peeve of mine. Someone kept leaving the door open. Just anyways, it's a whole separate issue. But you take something away, performing an action to get them to keep doing it. So let's say that the patient is doing really good at, let's say they're stretching themselves at home and doing really good, and their range of motion is really great. Great, awesome. I can take away stretching them in the clinic because they're going to do it at home. Okay. Let's say that they're doing really well stretching at home. Okay, I'll take stretching in here away, so then you keep doing it at home, as long as you keep doing that. Or let's say that you say the patient, and like the PT will change the plan of care to make this happen, but let's say the patient's doing really good with their home exercise program, and you tell them, hey, you don't have to come in 3 times a week, you can just come in 2 times a week. I've taken away that that extra visit to encourage you to keep doing your home exercise program and stay on top of things, to keep doing that action. That's a good way to think about it. Try and think of PT related things, because I don't know what else I can think of, because any of these other ones almost sound like bad. So that's negative reinforcement. Take something away, tell them to get them to keep doing the action. If you want to think of this as like kids, let's say that the kid's doing really well in school and getting good grades on their assignments and everything. So you tell them, hey, you don't have to vacuum your room this weekend because you are doing really well with your grades. Like, I'll do it for you. I don't know. My mom would never do that. But anyways, that's another way to think about it. Now, positive punishment. So positive means we give. Punishment means we are trying to stop the action from happening, okay? An old example of this would be, you are going to spank your kid to get them to stop doing the action. Now, again, you can't spank your patients. That's abuse. So, but if you want to think of a really extreme example, that's kind of the thought process. For me personally, I worked better with negative punishment, where they took my GameCube away, and then I couldn't do. Then it says because I was being bad, so then I stopped being bad, so then I wouldn't lose my GameCube anymore. That was me. That worked way better for me than anything else. But for patients, give them something for performing action to get them to stop. Okay. So let's say that they're really bad about doing their home exercise program, so you're giving them more aggressive stretches in the clinic, which means if they did their home exercise program more and stopped not doing their home exercise program, they wouldn't have to get this aggressive stretching in the clinic. So that's what I think of for positive punishment. You give them something to get them to stop, okay? Again, not too many examples of this that don't involve bad things happening, but yeah, that's positive punishment. You give them something to make it stop. Okay, that's kind of what's going on. Now, negative punishment. Oh, you could give a kid a timeout to get them to stop doing bad activities. That's another one for positive punishment. Now, negative punishment means take something away for performing an action to get them to stop. Again, this was me with my GameCube. I was being a little trash child, and my parents were sick of it, and they realized if they took my GameCube away, I stopped being a little piece of crap. So take something away to get them to stop doing the action. That's the best way I can think of it. Negative, take it away. Punishment, to get them to stop. In the clinic, I guess you could I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a good clinical example. It really works really well with kids. Works really well with kids. So tell them like, hey, we're not going to do this activity. We're not going to play this game because you're throwing a tantrum right now. That's a great way to think of it. I'm trying to think of it with adults. So there's not much you can do for adults. So that's pretty much what's going on with this. So again, positive reinforcement. Gonna give you something, give you a high five because you did the exercise right to keep you doing it right. Negative reinforcement means take something away, so then you keep doing the exercise. Again, I'll take your favorite exercise, your least favorite exercise away if you kill the fly. Positive punishment. That's you give something to get them to stop. Like, okay, you're gonna get a timeout. I'm giving you a timeout. So stop doing this crazy stuff. Negative punishment is we don't get to do your fun Barbie spinny fairy flying thing activity because you've been bad. So that's that. Again, really big in pediatrics for all of these different types of learning styles to try to get your patients to participate in therapy, or patients who are not as cognitively there. So like TBI patients as well. All right, so sample question. A physical therapist assistant is working with a child with Down syndrome to improve their standing tolerance. The child runs off and grabs a different therapist's computer mouse and chucks it at the wall. The therapist working with the child then tells the child that is not okay, and now they won't play The Floor is Lava. This is an example of what? 1, positive punishment, 2, positive reinforcement, 3, negative punishment, or 4, negative reinforcement. So I'll give you guys a second to think about this. All right, guys, this is an example of negative punishment. So, yes, this happened. I was the victim of the mouse being chucked at the wall. My mouse is okay and it still works. So that's good. But anyways, so this child does something that's not okay. And so they have done a behavior that is undesired, which has been established. So therefore, they want the patient to stop doing that behavior. So we can automatically get rid of the reinforcements because that would be encouraging the behavior to continue. If we want the behavior to stop, it's going to have to be punishment. So we're stuck between 1 and 3. Now, the therapist tells them, hey, we're not going to play the floor is lava now because you did that. So they're taking something away, the fun activity, to get them to stop doing that action. So positive would be giving, so that's why that's incorrect. So this is an example of negative punishment. So I hope after going through those examples and talking through it, kind of makes sense like how these show up, because sometimes you guys are like, Bree, why am I learning this? What does this have to do with stuff? Again, I feel like this is more applicable to clinical practice, but I feel like a question like this, of the different types of punishment and reinforcement, that has a chance of showing up. All right, friends, hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Have a great day.